Greetings, Earthlings. It is I, Dr. Todd Lee, and with me today we have Austrian Powers from Instagram, also Leo Meyerhoff. Is I see your name right?
Mayrhofer. Mayrhofer.
Meyerhoff. All right, it
Yeah.
sounds way cooler when you say it. So we met at the Olympia that I was sitting at Chase Iron's booth on the couch, and Leo sat down next to me and wanted to discuss my point of view on Masteron, and that he didn't agree with me. And we had a good discussion about it, and I think I sold my case pretty well, and we basically have become friends ever since. He is the host of the Overcome podcast, one of the best podcasts on YouTube. He has a lot of really great guests on, a lot of guests that are old school OGs that a lot of the younger crowd don't know, that such as Steve Weinberger and Dave Palumbo, Samir Banuit, basically luminaries in the sport of bodybuilding. And I wanted him on today to tell us about himself, and I want you guys to check out his podcast. So
Thank you.
without further ado, Leo, take it away. We're on a delay, just so people know that
Yeah.
California and Michigan are far enough apart that there is a lag. So if we accidentally talk over each other, we apologize.
Thank you for the nice intro. Just want to quickly mention that I just had Jay Cutler on, and his manager, Matt, told me he hasn't been on any podcast in over a year. Like he always says no. So I was like super honored, and it's a great podcast. It's about basically all his life, his ups and downs, his mindset, and it's a timeless one. So it's almost like a documentary. I put in some illustrative elements, like tiny videos or some pictures sometimes too. Yeah, that was great. Very nice intro of you. Um, how I got here is I came to America at the very end of 2019, and ever since been in LA. One time I fled during the shutdown crisis to Texas for 6 months. I was ready to leave California for good because I thought they were all going crazy and never open up again. But yeah, I turned pro in 2020 at the North Americans. Um, actually, at the same show like Nick Walker and Martin Fitzwater. Obviously, not in the same division. So I turned pro in Classic. And yeah, I've been working as a coach. My most prominent client I ever had is Urs Kalachinsky, who I trained for roughly 2 years, and we turned pro together. Did his first pro show, and then he found Boss of Outlaw, which is a great coach, and he should have no regrets. I couldn't have done a better job, I think. Like maybe, who knows, but I don't think I would have made him win. So that was not the worst choice. Yeah, I competed in like 10, 11 pro shows. I wrote also a book on steroids and a lot of on TRT and more practical uses. So kind of optimizing it in a more clever way than just, yeah, doing straight what the doctor might tell you. And all the steroid profiles on there. Coming out with a peptide guide, probably even this week. Uh, Training people at Gold's Gym Venice. So this was always my dream. And when I started out, I was like in Germany looking at movies from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and now I see him almost every day, and he knows my name, and we talk sometimes.
Really?
And yeah, one time
That's
he told me he was
cool.
one time he told me he was proud of me. He let me pose for him. He let me pose for him, and then yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah. By now he's seen me like work out there for like 4 years straight, and so he's seen a little bit of my development and how I got bigger. And he always says, what does he say? This is enorm. That's enormous, you know. Das ist enorm in German and fantastic, you know, and so it's pretty cool to be there. And yeah, unfortunately, Golds has lost a little bit of its charm. Maybe not really its charm, but there's still like the old school fraction that's always been there. But these guys are not 20 anymore and blown up. So I would love to see more big bodybuilders that would motivate me also. Basically, I don't need extra motivation, but it's still cool to have like some people around you that are like insanely huge and you feel like, damn, there's more. I can do more. I can be better. Um, And yeah, that's my life so far. I have a wife. She's a IFBB pro as well,
Really?
bikini. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Erin Mayrhofer. She took my name. But on Instagram, her name is E Gales because her last name used to be Gales. And yeah, we live a great life. I have no complaints. Maybe a little bit here and there, but no, not real big ones. And yeah, I also what I didn't mention is I used to be a cyclist, like long distance Lance Armstrong Tour de France style. I went up to do some pro races there too, and that was all natural, like legit. And yeah, that's kind of my story, I would say. I studied at university. I studied math, sports, and German. So I had even a little bit of sports science there. But well, there was a few seminars that were actually good. But I just want to tell anyone that just because someone studied something doesn't always mean they really know. So self-studying can sometimes be way better, especially in fields where it evolves so much. Like some people just they study something and they don't keep evolving, they don't keep learning. That's why I find channels like yours and also your Instagram so helpful. It's always like the last post about the caffeine and the pre-workouts and stuff. There's always like something to learn. It's always something to learn from your stuff,
That
you
pisses
know?
people off so much. People do
Yeah.
not like hearing that they've been doing something wrong their whole life.
Oh
So
no,
they
that
want to fight back. They want to fight back bad. I'm like, motherfuckers, I didn't make this up. Hani Rambod came up with this shit 15 years ago. Where have you been?
yeah. That's something that is in every part of our society. It's ingrained in all people that have no real confidence that they can't ever admit they've been wrong, and especially when they've been doing something for a long time. So many so many people, so many people train like idiots and they never change. And they want to tell you, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years. What are you telling me? And I'm like, yeah, you've been doing the same thing for 20 years and you never learned. Isn't that crazy? But yeah,
With training, it's kind of easier in person because you'd be like, move this here, move this here, move this here, arch your back this much, not that much, this much. Now pull down slow, hold for 1 second, and then release twice as slow as you did on the way down. And after 5 reps, they're like, holy shit, I've never felt like this before.
yeah,
And then you're like, yeah. And they're like, I've been doing it wrong my whole life. And they start crying. And you're like, yeah, but you got the rest of your life to do it right. But on the internet, you can't show people that,
it's hard.
And with steroids, it takes a month or two for the blood work to come back for them to realize it isn't the drug, it's their dosing protocol or it's the ratio or whatever. That they have these false beliefs like, oh, my prostate's inflamed because of Masteron, or they make up this shit that they saw on the internet, and it's just this echo chamber of nonsense based on no reality, and you can't prove to them they're wrong as quickly as you can if you give them some weight, and you're like, do it your way, okay, do it this way, and then they'll instantly feel that it's right, but they can't instantly feel that the steroid cycle is right.
It is hard also for people that even when you tell them in a video and you show them and they see it, it doesn't mean they can replicate it, even if they understood really. Because some people they don't have this natural athleticism and the
Mhm.
ability to like really only move the joint that's supposed to move and stay like stiff but steady in the rest of the body, like have your core just tight and you just move like a machine. It's just it's really tough. You like sometimes when I train people, I'm like I'm holding them together. I'm pressing everything in order. Like it's like almost like I told the client like it would be actually cool if I had a stick, and punch people. So every time I hit them there, they're like, okay. And then they would easily like learn very fast because they would be hit all the time in the areas where they should, stay straight.
Cattle prod, just zap them. Zap them every time they like keep your butt down, zap, keep your butt down, zap, keep your butt like these motherfuckers when they're doing lat pull downs and they're using their body weight to like get the weight moving, and then they start trying to argue with you like, well, I just feel it better in my lats if I do this. I'm like, I mean, technically yes, because you're keeping in perpetual motion, But if you just made it lighter, you'd be able to do it right and feel it in your lats. Like when you're
Yeah, most
training too heavy, you do have to cheat in order to actually feel it in the muscle.
a lot of people they either row or they do rear delts and biceps, but lats is pretty rare. Yeah, it's I just trained with Eric Janicki. That was cool.
Oh, really?
He trains really nice. Yeah, I love
Speaking
to
of
train with him.
slow,
Yeah,
you train slow
very
as fuck.
slow.
I'd love to meet that guy. That guy's cool as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, we can train together once you when you're down here. I'll let him know. Okay.
Awesome, sweet, yeah. It makes me want to come even more. I mean, I gotta hang out with Niall again. I wanted to train with you at Golds. There's a lot of cool people in LA that I haven't met yet. That it just, the world's full of friends you haven't met yet, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like how I look at it.
Yesterday I had Ryan Root, who was
Oh
also
yeah.
on the couch. He was here in this
Oh really?
room, and yeah, I had him on the podcast too. And I went in all these questions that are usually the bro science things about steroids, like
Mm,
ratios or
the ratios.
L-carnitine or desensitizing esters, holding water and propionate holds less water, like all these things that are out there that people believe, and we debunked the shit out of it. And I think that was a really good episode for people to like set something straight so they can just relax and be like, just like, dude, it's individual. There is no 2 to 1 for everyone, and that's it. And you'll be like, everyone, as you know, as we all know, and with every drug, how is with
It's
steroids, everyone would react the same. But every other drug,
it's
like your doctor has to adjust.
It's so funny. Like I'm like, how much caffeine do you drink? 1,000 milligrams? Does your daughter drink 1,000 milligrams? Oh no, she has like 100 and she's bouncing off the walls. Then why the fuck do you think you use the same steroids as me? Why the fuck
Yeah,
would you use the same dose as me? Why does my dose matter to you? You don't ask someone else how many milligrams of caffeine they have a day. You use caffeine at your discretion, and you either are using too much or too little, and you adjust to find the right amount. Why the fuck?
yeah,
What you never ask anyone how much caffeine they use for you to like start your dosing of caffeine. I don't understand why they think steroids are different. I just don't think they think at all. I think they
yeah,
literally never think at all. They just want to be told what to do, wear 2 masks, stand 6 feet apart, take your clot shots, and die. And that's their mindset is like, I want
yeah.
to be a sheep led to the slaughter. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. It doesn't matter if it makes sense.
People always want a simple answer. That's all they want. But the next thing is, sure, everyone wants it. I also want a simple answer, but they also accept it right away. That's the
Right.
thing. If you give them a good, simple answer, they're like, "Oh yes, that's great. Let's go." And that's scary. That's a scary thing actually. That they're not like they don't think once they have the answer, they really stop thinking. So they won't be like, "But wait a minute, what's happening? Like you take 30 grams of peanut butter. My sister's allergic to peanut butter, you know? So maybe."
Yeah.
Not no peanut butter for her, you know.
Yeah,
But Ronnie Coleman did
exactly.
80. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. But to your point about Mastron, maybe you want to get into. I almost forgot a little bit what my point was about Mastron. What I was wondering. I almost forgot. Do you remember?
Yeah, I kind of do. I kind of do. Because I don't think you even really heard my whole story. I think you knew the
No, no, I
counter
didn't. That's
argument,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
I did hear
but
the whole
once you
thing.
heard my whole story, not like a reel, not a clip of a 30-minute video into 60 seconds,
Hmm.
but like the whole thing, you're like, well, okay, now it makes sense. My point
Yeah.
was that sold you, I think, was if Mastron doesn't have the side effects of Primo, and it doesn't have the side effects of Deca, and it doesn't have the side effects of EQ, it doesn't matter how strong it is because you can take as much as you need to get the effects you're looking for. So if your max dose of EQ is 500 before you crush your estrogen, or your max dose of Primo is 1,000 before you crush your estrogen, or your max dose is 300 of Nandrolone before you get gyno, Are you going to use those drugs and then crap out at a certain point where you can't go higher? Or are you going to use 500, 600, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 a masteron? Because at
Yeah.
no point are you going to have a problem. You don't necessarily need to use that. And yet it might tank your HDL once you're in like the 2,000 to 3,000 range. But even if it's half as strong, it's more than half as strong. But even if it's half as strong,
Mm.
you can use as much as you want, and it's cheaper. So it's
It's
like,
open. It's open end. Yeah.
yeah,
That's so
it's
true.
like
Yeah, absolutely.
it's the white rice of anabolic steroids.
What
That
do you
if you're not
personally?
growing, just add white rice.
What do you think about stacking, like also nandrolone derivative on top?
So I don't see a reason for it except for I see two reasons for it. I see that there is the collagen benefit provided by nandrolone, which is also provided by EQ, even better. And then there is the anti-cortisol effect provided by nandrolone. But if you're using several hundred milligrams of test, there's an anti-cortisol effect from that too. There's the progesterone effect, the progesterone partial agonism by nandrolone, which can have all types of consequences. So I don't see a good purpose to using nandrolone. However, I wouldn't bat an eyelash at someone using 20, 30 milligrams a day. I don't think that that's going to hurt you. It'll get you the anti-cortisol benefits. It'll get you the collagen synthesis benefits. I don't think it's going to really cause you to get gyno at such a low dose.
Yeah, I agree. So, what do you think then about like maxing out primo to your individual ability, and then if you want to get higher, you stack the white rice of Masteron?
Right. So if we looked at Primo, okay, so why would one use Primo instead of just more Masteron? Generally, it's because they've taken too much testosterone and they want to inhibit the aromatization of the testosterone to estrogen. So you're taking Primo to control your abuse of testosterone. So, and then ipso facto, your DHT is going to be much higher. So using Test, Primo, and Masteron is going to be harder on your hairline than just using a lower dose of Test and using all Masteron. I don't see any advantage to
Yeah.
Primo over Masteron. I see the special
Ah,
feature of aromatase inhibition, but I don't think that that aromatase inhibition is needed unless you're abusing the testosterone in the first place.
yeah. So maybe for someone who's really sensitive to estrogen, I would think that primo is a little more cortisol inhibiting compared to Masteron. You wouldn't say that?
Probably, but here's where I was going to go with that next. In the
Yeah.
instance that someone really wanted the aromatase inhibition, I'd rather see them use a baby dose of EQ because then you're also going to get the collagen synthesis and you obviate the need for ever using the DECA. So I'd
Hmm.
rather have someone use test a baby dose of EQ and then Masteron than have
What's a
Primo in there
baby
at all.
dose? 100,
Like
200?
30 milligrams a day, maybe 10 to
Yeah.
30 milligrams a day,
Do you do everything always daily? Even
every
if it's
day.
like an,
Every day, always, because you can't measure anything with a smaller increment than a half a milliliter if you use a normal syringe, which obligates you to doing these giant doses. So to me, it just makes more sense to take an insulin syringe and measure up tenths of a milliliter or less. Like you could do even 5 insulin units as a 20th of a milliliter, which
and you
you can measure
backload
up.
them?
Nope, I just use the needle and I
Oh, so
just
you,
draw it up. Yep. Just like right here, I'm sitting here watching this right now, right? So
yeah,
if I was to put this on and start watching some anime, and I pretended this was a bottle and this is the syringe, I'm like this, and I'm watching the anime.
yeah.
Eventually, this thing will be full, and then you just stick it in and go. You
Yeah.
know, it's just
Do you use
patience.
a little bigger one, like a 28 insulin or
No,
30?
I'm not in a hurry. No,
Yeah, why not?
I'm going to be watching TV either way. I might as well be loading up my syringes while I'm watching TV.
So, because your sleep schedule is so crazy, you said you sleep like from morning till afternoon, do you
I,
then
I
take your juice in the morning before you go to bed?
usually do it right before bed. Yeah. So I'll wake up
Yeah.
and I'll do my first GH shot in the morning. I usually do my second GH shot either before or after the gym, depending on timing of when I go to the gym. And then before bed, I usually do my anabolics and my third GH shot. I also do
Hmm.
Lantus when I wake up and when I go to bed.
How much GH do you take?
GH, I go 2, 2, and 4 right now. So I'm only doing 8 units a day.
Okay. So, but because your blood sugar is always in control, you think you spacing out is better?
And I don't, in me, the GH has no impact on my blood sugar. Whether I'm using 26 units or 6 units, it doesn't change. I'll have a continuous glucose monitor on.
Ah,
I'll watch the glucose monitor when I do my GH injections. There's no change. I'll go up to 20 units. I'll go down to 2 units. No change. That has no
interesting.
impact whatsoever. So I don't know where people came up with this. I think the reason why people think that GH affects blood glucose is when people blast GH, they also overeat. And so because they're doing their off season, they're bulking, they've shot their blood sugar, their insulin sensitivity is shit. They've got insulin resistance, and because most of these people aren't very smart, they attribute it to the GH, not to the amount that they're eating.
So I'm always staying pretty lean, and since I've been doing everything pre-bed,
Hmm.
I get way less sleepy. I'm not monitoring my blood sugar all the time, but I get way less sleepy and I feel it's way better. And I take it with berberine at night and with some fiber. I don't know if the and I feel it that my blood sugar is way more stable that way. I've been always very I felt always very sensitive. Like I can feel when I just do like 2 units, it's fine. But as soon as I would do over four, I get sleepy, and
Right.
that's even in prep. So
So are
I
you
feel
correlating the sleepiness with blood glucose?
yeah,
Okay. I Are you sure that the reason why you're sleepy is because you're hypoglycemic? Because I go
I'm pretty sure.
hypoglycemic. Okay, because I've had both symptoms, right? But
Mhm.
when I get hypoglycemia, I get sweaty, I get cold, I get dizzy, I get cranky. Not in that order. First I get cranky, then I get dizzy, then I start sweating, then I get ice cold. That's my hypo. That's not what happens when I take GH. When I take GH, if I sit down in a chair to watch a show after I eat a meal, I'll go to sleep. And so
Yeah,
I'm not convinced that I'm hyperglycemic and that's making me fall asleep.
I
I
wouldn't
would
say
think
hyper. Yeah,
I think that
but
it's the IGF-1 levels spike so high. I think the IGF-1 levels is what's making you sleepy. It isn't, I don't know if that it's your hypoglycemia is making you sleepy. Because I've tried that what Phil Viz had suggested that if you get really tired after you eat them after you shoot GH, if you eat a big meal, it'll perk you up. I find that's not the case with me.
so for me, I've never taken it. I mean, I have, but in these instances where I tell you that I'm getting more sleepy, I didn't take it just before I get sleepy. I would have taken it before the workout, like 30
Hmm.
minutes intramuscularly. You get a little more fat burn effect, like 1.8 units or so. And so whenever I split it up like that, then I get like this. You know this already when you're a child and you eat a little spaghetti or overeat a little bit, and then you kind of have an insulin crash a little bit, and then you get sleepy. Like this kind of feeling, but without eating that much. Just like being like tired and be like, ooh. And like even if I eat a banana and a protein shake, and that will be enough to be like,
1 second. I'm gonna blow my nose. Hold on.
oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, so I know what you're talking about. Dave Chappelle calls it the itis, where you eat a big meal and you start getting sleepy. I think that that's because you eat a big meal, your body releases a lot of insulin. The insulin shuttles the glucose into the muscles, and you become you're now hypoglycemic because the insulin's still high, but you aren't releasing the sugar from your intestines into your blood as fast as the insulin's clearing it. Supposedly GH does the opposite of that, and the GH prevents the carbs from being uptaked into the tissue, which would mean that you'd have the opposite effect of GH. However, IGF-1 does do that, what insulin does. So I think what's happening is not so much you're having blood sugar dysregulation, but that you're feeling the IGF-1 kicking in, and that's what's shuttling the blood glucose into the muscle, and now you're getting tired. And
Yeah,
that basically would almost be an indicator that the GH is working. You're getting more of an IGF-1 pulse.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, well, at least now I feel I don't get that sleepy, and maybe it's because I'm less anabolic because my IGF isn't.
Right, and that's why I do 2 units twice during the day rather than four. If I did 4 units 3 times a day, I'd be unconscious the whole day. I wouldn't be able to stay awake.
Okay.
I'd just
I
be
have
so anabolic.
I have IGF LR3 from a sponsor, so I could also. I'm always like because I train people, then it's sometimes hard to the time that if I train after I train people and I want to time it with a meal 1 hour before. I mean, I can do it, but I'm also like, you know, if the stuff that I'm taking is not enough for me to get like to where I want to go, that's not meant to be. Like I train right, like I eat, I sleep all the time, like I do everything right. Like if I need to be on a minute to minute protocol for this to happen, then I'm like maybe I'm too bad of a bodybuilder.
I don't know anybody who, so like the biohacker engineer personality type, none of them
Mm.
make it to the Olympia stage.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing this super fancy peptide shit and making it
Oh,
anywhere in the sport.
you would be surprised. I know someone in the top five at Classic at least that is doing a lot of that. But
Okay,
but I know what you mean. Like in general, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
I generally, I mean, maybe it's given to them by their coach and it's a protocol that's worked with a lot of people. But generally speaking, I don't see guys who are timing it. I've done it so specifically where I'll do insulin pre-training with GH, and then I'd have this many milligrams of caffeine, this many milligrams of Anavar to increase absorption, and then I'd have the pre-workout, then I'd do this many minutes of warm up, and then while I'm training, I'd have this much IGF-1 des and this much Humalog with this many carbs, and at the end of the workout, I'd have this much more insulin and this much more GH and this many carbs, and it didn't help a bit. It didn't make any goddamn difference than if I just did none of that shit and just said, I'm going to take 100 more milligrams of Masteron and eat 100 extra carbs today, and then
You know,
just
I
take the
did
GH
yeah.
whenever.
I did that one time for like maybe few weeks with insulin. I had like everything super planned out, even injected on the minute L-carnitine with it and took the creatine at the right second. And like 10 minutes post, like before the workout ended, I would already get the insulin. But like right when I eat, like directly after the workout, it would be like right there, everything prepared and stuff. And I did that because I was on, like I was off. I was on TRT. I wasn't off, but I was on TRT to just, I was like, try to, okay, so if I'm not using any juice, let me, optimize any other pathway of growth so I can at least make some progress. Because, then I always am of the mindset, it's like, able to grow. I don't only want to train to just maintain so that like from the mindset, it kind of sucks. So then that's when I try to throw in peptides or whatever to have my health markers, maybe even improve more on the peptides or other things and just to optimize other pathways of growth that are non-steroidal or non-hormonal. So it's almost like a little mental. You feel more anabolic just in here too. That helps, You've probably
You
done
got
that
the
too.
Yeah, it's like you want to leave nothing on the table. You want to leave no stone unturned on your quest for muscles. That like you're growing so slow that it's undetectable. So you're willing to do anything possible to try to force growth. And I just don't think it ever makes a difference. Like,
Yeah.
there is a right time to do this, or there is a right time to do that, but more than half the time you're going hypoglycemic while you're training, or you're changing your workout around to accommodate the intra-workout injection, or your training routine is specifically around when you're going to do your IGF-1, or because you had to do everything perfect, you have indigestion, and so you're not in absorbing any of the food, you're just getting diarrhea from it, or your girlfriend forgot to pick up this at the grocery store, so you have to change what you're doing and go to the grocery store before you can go home. So it fucks up your post workout meal, which then makes the $40 you spent on all the drugs you took that workout completely thrown in the toilet. And like none of this ever fucking matters. In the end, it's really just test, GH, having those levels high throughout the whole day so you're anabolic the whole time. Like this little idea that you're going to spike a little bit of insulin, a little bit of anavar through this tiny little window, and you're going to get maximum return on investment. It's just unlikely your body's going to absorb that much nutrients in that time window. And that
Yeah.
if you
Also,
have everything perfect, and then you're going to add one thing in every week, you add in one habit until it gets to the point where the house of cards comes crumbling down, then you can roll it back. So maybe you can handle an 80% complexity. You can handle 8 out of 10 modifications. If you go 9 out of 10 modifications, you're just fried. And if you're super stressed, you're not going to grow anyway because your cortisol's up. So if it's stressful to juggle all this shit, like, oh, my creatine exploded in my gym bag, and now my fucking underwear has creatine in it. And so every time I walk, I feel chafing on my nuts and it burns. Like, that's going to fuck up your workout.
yeah. I just want to say that too with the stress, because like if you have a protocol on the minute, your cortisol will probably like be raised more than you would even suppress it with all the drugs you take in. So you have to always love what you do. If it's too much stress, so whatever you can like add that's not really not stressing you out, cool. You know, like let's say you take a IGF-LR3, which does something for sure, and you eat your meal all the time, 1 hour pre-workout anyways. Yeah, you take your 40 micrograms with it and fine, you know. But if it's like really like and like some things are such an organization too that you like, well, maybe it's just that's why for some people meal preps are great because you know they have such a busy life, you know, it's worth it to spend more for them when they have that money to just be like chill, all everything taken care of. No, I'll just take it out, put it in. But by the way, I just found out that these black plastic containers that are mostly recycled plastic are the worst cancerous stuff, and you should never heat it up in that. You should probably never like have your food in there in the first place, but if you heat it up, don't let it in there. Like put it on a plate or something,
You're
or
supposed to
get
use
it in another plate.
glass, like glass Pyrex. Like Shelby Starnes switched everyone over to glass Pyrex like 12, 15 years ago. I don't know where everybody has been since then, but we knew not to use microwave safe containers that were plastic 15 years ago. It's like it was bigger than tap water. It was the amount of shit that's in those. Like, honestly, I think everyone's better off that if you have a coach, you give your diet the coach wrote you to somebody who cooks your food, and you have them cook your food rather than you hiring a meal prep company that's going to charge you like 4,000 bucks a month or something like that. If you were to eat every meal out of that meal prep company, it would make more
Oh,
sense just to pay someone 1,000 bucks a month to come to your house and cook the food and put it in the fridge for you.
that's true. That's absolutely true.
Especially if you could pay them
Remember,
more money and they go grocery shopping. Like your coach gives your chef the meal plan. Your chef goes grocery shopping, comes to your house, cooks the food, and sticks it in your your fridge.
I actually had two clients that have personal chefs, so I did it with them. But yeah, these clients still don't stick to it, even though they have someone. You know,
Well,
when
you're
like
in
some people,
Hollywood.
yeah, exactly. Some people just don't have the discipline for it. But But yeah, totally. Like this one chef, she would do that, and that's here, and it's pretty expensive. She would do, I think it was under 750 a week, but that was included with everything.
with the
That's
food.
not that expensive,
That's
you
three
know?
grand a
Yeah,
month.
yeah,
Which, I mean, if people spend 3 grand a month on their Seristim when they could be spending 300 on Metotropin, I'd rather see them
yeah,
take that 2,700 bucks and hire a chef to cook their food, because I guarantee you the difference that the GH is going to make is nothing compared to the difference that eating your fucking diet is going to make. Because none of these
yeah.
stupid fucks eat their fucking diet.
That's so true. Like there's so many people that like nowadays, especially here, they want to look great. They go to the doctor and get the most expensive peptides prescription, and where they could just buy it
Buy
online,
them. It's so
and
stupid.
they
It's
and
so
they
stupid.
yeah. Like I just got two people off it, and I'm like,
It's
dude, you
unbelievable.
can
Like,
save a shit you can save a
hold on.
shit ton, and you like you can just do it yourself, and like you can get your blood work. I'll look at it. It's let's save that money and hire a chef from it or whatever. But they can do all these things when they don't stick to the diet. Like I'm always telling them, like, you can take GH and all the peptides in the world. Your pizza is going to stay a pizza, and it's not gonna. What's that?
This right here. This is a $75 bottle of Ozempic. These stupid motherfuckers pay $1,400 for this to get it
Yeah,
prescribed to them. Now, I would never do that. I don't rip people off like that. But they think that it's better because it came from a pharmacy. It's like, motherfuckers, it still comes from China. It always comes
yeah.
from China.
I mean, I even know the people that own, like, I have one peptide sponsor. I know the guy who owns it. Like, I can tell you the compounding pharmacy. You can call them. I don't know if you can call them, but I know exactly where it comes from. So it's good. You don't have to worry about that. But yeah. So this it's interesting. Like these priorities people have when spending money. That's the wildest thing you see with rich people. What they try to save on, and then when you see them on the weekend, what they spent money for is like, why did you save those 300 bucks when you just gave everyone, like, when you just spent 10,000 bucks in this club for free drinks for some dudes? Like, it's just like, yeah,
It doesn't make
yeah,
any
it's
sense at
wild.
all.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It's
But
so
maybe it's
fucking
just
weird.
because we come from little or so. I'm interested. What did your parents do? How did you grow up?
Shit. So my dad's story was dark as fuck. So I've never told my dad's story because it's so dark, it would ruin anybody's mood. So
Okay, shit.
I never really talk about my mom's side of the family either because that's pretty bad too. But
Then just tell me, how did you still turn out well?
I didn't. I didn't. I was
Not
the first
initially.
person. I was the first
Okay.
person to ever go to college in either family, and that's pretty much how I broke the cycle. It's kind of like how Michael Corleone went into the military and got out of the family business. What in the
Hmm.
beginning of The Godfather? It's like one of those types of situations where I just was the only person to ever graduate high school, the only person to go to college, put myself through college working two jobs, the classic bullshit story you hear from everyone. But I got like scholarships and grants and stuff like that because I had the highest. There's this thing called the MEP, which is the Michigan Educational Achievement. I don't know
Nice.
what P stands for, but aptitude
Okay.
test, I think. Yeah. So it's like I got the highest score for 12 years in a row in that in my school district, and
Mm.
then I got the highest
Well.
amount of sit-ups and push-ups for 12 years in a row in my school district. So I got to go to U of M where we would never be able to afford it otherwise and worked two jobs and had a bunch of loans, including those grants and including scholarships to go. And then from there went to Wayne State School of Medicine for my master's. And then before I did the thesis, which is just a fucking paper, they want you to stay an extra semester and pay tuition for a whole semester to write a paper
It's
that
crazy,
you're
huh?
not learning shit. You're just writing a paper. I got into med school, so I was like, fuck you people. I'm going to just go to be medical school instead. So I went to med school and moved around a lot. And now I'm back in the Metro Detroit area. But yeah, I pretty much that's where it's been is I didn't really do anything other than school growing up, except for when I was really young, I sold drugs and I drank a lot. I started drinking at 12. I was sober by 20. So I've got 25 years sober right now. Yeah. So
I
I don't,
also stopped drinking. I started, but I wasn't like a drinker, alcoholic. But in Germany, you're allowed to drink with 18,
hmm
and everyone's already drinking with 16, and they're partying. And
hmm
we're not allowed to go to clubs, but like private parties and stuff. So I started drinking like on the weekend sometimes, like not that I was not an alcoholic at all, but was 16, and I was basically done by 20. I think by 20 or 21. So I like, and when the Americans start, I was always like, I'm good. I'm into sports.
well,
Yeah.
it was like in high school, it's like, how do you make money? Basically, you buy low, sell high. And it's like, what's the only way you can really make money? It's cigarettes, alcohol, gasoline, and drugs. And so there was one ethnic group where I lived that had all the liquor stores and all the gas stations. So it's like, all right, I basically selling drugs is the only way to make money. And I was like, but you go to jail if you get caught, but not if you're a doctor. Being a doctor means you have a license to sell drugs. So I was like, that's, and so where I lived, there was lots of doctors, there's lots of lawyers, there's lots of criminals, there's lots of business owners and shit like that. But the criminals are like
Uh,
white collar criminals. So it's like, so they would basically have these stores that are cash businesses. They wouldn't pay taxes on them. They've got their lawyers to help them launder other illegal operations through their stores. And so it's like this whole thing. And that's how money was made. And that's how I understood it. And so I was like, if I go into medicine, I will never have to worry about having income because people are always going to want to fulfill their vices. They're always going to be addicted to cigarettes. They're always going to be addicted to alcohol. They're always going to be addicted to sex, but sex is illegal to sell. And then you're always going to be addicted to pills because pills are
Viagra is not
basically,
illegal.
well, back then there was like, it's like the housewives and shit that the upper crust people, the white collar people, they're all on pills rather than using street drugs like cocaine, heroin, crack.
Mm.
They've got Adderall, they've got Ritalin, they've got Xanax, they've got their Vicodin. They're no different. They're the same. It's just these idiots think that makes them better than other people. So the doctors are the drug dealers for those rich people. So I was like, that's the only way to go about this and actually make a living. And then once I was out of that environment and I saw how bad medicine was for people, I was like, well, in D&D I always played healers. So you're not healing anyone with Western medicine. You're just a drug dealer. And so I was like, the only thing I can do is try to tear this system down. So I was writing diets for people, and that's what got me blacklisted basically, was because I was teaching the patients they don't need pills, they need to eat their diets. So that's when I started doing coaching and bikini prep. That's when I went into the supplement industry. And then I started my own supplement company. And that's when I basically started doing YouTube all the time. And that's where I built up this anti-Western medicine, anti anti approach to everything. That all it really comes down to is hard work, discipline, eating, and training, and that the steroids are almost always a placebo, where the people don't believe in themselves, they believe in steroids. So they use steroids and they try. If they're not on steroids, they don't try. Kind of like what you were saying, like, why would I try
Right.
if I'm not on steroids? But if I trick myself into thinking I'm on baby steroids, I'll try. So that's the whole thing. Is if you gave someone a placebo and told them, "Oh yeah, you're on the strongest steroids ever. If you train 100%, you will grow." They believe in the drugs. They don't believe in themselves. They'll train. They'll grow. So it's like,
Placebo works. Yeah.
so if they're on an
100%.
HRT dose of testosterone, there's no reason why they won't grow. If dudes who are genetic freaks can grow in prison and they've only got 1,000 testosterone, then there's no fucking reason why you can't grow with a 1500 testosterone. That
Yeah.
so you can if they can grow on peanut butter or ramen noodles, doing push-ups and calisthenics, you should be able to grow with a full fucking Gold's Gym membership or whatever gym membership on a on 20 or 30 milligrams of testosterone and 2 or 4 units of GH. Like you have more, even with those baby doses, they still have more than any genetic freak in the history of mankind. So you don't need more than that to grow. You just need to fucking train, take it seriously. Everybody watches Dragon Ball, but no one acts like Goku. So if they just go in there and train, they won't need as much drugs.
In my defense, because it sounded like I'm like a steroid junkie. I
No, no.
trained for like no, I'm just saying I trained for like 7, 8 years naturally, and I did a bunch of natural shows, just so you know. And I've also, dude, I have helped so many people not to get on juice. Oh my God, it's crazy. Like these kids nowadays, like, and everyone's like, I'm like, dude, you're not even at 50% on everything else. You can grow like hell. And I'm like, do you want to still train in 10 years? They're like, yeah. So, just wait a little because if you fuck it up too early, you might not be able to train in 10 years. And what is it for? Do you go on stage? No. Like, you can have a good arm, you can have a good physique without, using steroids. Like, and especially if you're not at 100% with everything, you'll need to abuse it if you just want that to be your fuel to get huge. So you might want to think twice about it.
Well,
But
it's
what? Okay, answer.
I wasn't actually calling you out. I was basically saying that
I know, I know.
you had enough wisdom to realize that you needed to have a placebo, otherwise
Mm,
you wouldn't try. So you gave yourself an alternative placebo while you were in a cruise or a health maintenance phase because you knew you
mm,
needed to have that placebo to even give yourself a, because why would you train if you can't grow? And so you knew that you could grow, and you knew that creatine wasn't really the answer, but you tricked yourself into thinking if I time my creatine with IGF-1 and do this, it's enough to where I can grow. And
yeah.
you manipulated yourself to get the results you wanted without actually going back on the gear.
You know what even turned out on this exact cruise? Turned out that I had fake testosterone.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was on literally nothing. And I'm like, damn, I'm freaking sore. I could even get better. I was a little high rep squatting, and I could
Mm.
even get a little better at my squats. That was crazy looking back because I got my lab results back, and they called me. They were calling about your testosterone. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I know, because I thought it was high. I thought it was a little higher, like 250 a week. It should be like maybe it's like over the range, like more than natural. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And then I look on the blood work and I'm like, oh, they called because it was low. It was like 50.
Wow.
I was like, nothing,
Wow. That is
and
nothing.
nothing. Yeah. So, but afterwards, like I was like, of course.
I'm interested in one of your special friends, RFK Jr. Do you want to talk about your relationship?
That's so funny. I just wanted to tell you. I just wanted to ask you your stance on him. So, okay, I'll start. So, in the beginning of COVID, I was very curious. I just didn't want to just believe, oh, this is just going to wipe us out. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, let me find out what this is about. This can't just freaking wipe us all out. Like, I don't want to believe this. So I researched and I found a podcast with him. I don't know who it was with. I think he even debated someone. And I loved what he said and everything and looked into him more. Then I looked into all the German guys that were censored, and they were all kind of saying the same, and they know each other too. And then someday, I think it was 2021, so he was not running at all, like 2 years out. The guy walks into Goldship. I'm like, what the fuck? This is RFK Jr. No one knew him. In 2021, no one knew him at Goldship. And went up to him like, dude, I'm a big fan. I love what you've been doing and all that stuff. And gave me his phone number. We became friends. I even
No
trained him.
way.
Yeah,
No way.
I even trained him. And I filmed this video where he does the push-ups, you
You
know,
told me that. Yeah, yeah.
and I
It's
was
fucking
like, Bobby,
awesome.
you should put this on Instagram, like post this. And, and like he's like, I asked my manager, and then they posted it. It was so cool. I mean, there was just my voice on it, but I heard my voice on every freaking news station because I
That's
said at the
awesome.
end, I said, "Oh, that's a big boy." And yeah, so like I love that he was just questioning things. Like he's right. Like there's not these safety studies on these vaccines really, and no one has liability. You need either one of the two, like at least. If you don't have the safety, you at least need at least liability, right? So I'm all for it, and if it comes out they all great, then great. But he's right to let people get the best information that they possibly can. Everyone can have their own opinion on the data we now have, where they sway towards. Like I'm pretty much on his side with most of the things he says. I don't know about the cause and effect of like autism or something with the vaccines, if that spikes it. But he has a point that there's a big rise. And yes, nowadays there's more people are more cautious, more aware, and doctors, and they would also diagnose more. And when like 30 years ago, no one even would want to accept the diagnoses probably because it was kind of seen like it was differently viewed in society. But I think there should be all these questions and they should be investigated. And it should be investigated if some food additives cause that and all these things that he wants to do. And why wouldn't why would Europe ban all the things that we allow in our food? Are they like, what would be the motive? I would just, they have a reason for that. And, maybe it's just a lobbying reason on the other side. I don't think so. And I know that in Europe, the food is way better overall. You can just feel it. You can taste it. So I would love them to like take over the complete dietary administrative guidelines from Germany. I think Germany even has the best. And now, like nowadays, I hate what my country's doing, but the food guidelines are great still. So yeah, so I trained him one time. He's very impatient when training. He wanted, and you know what I trained him on? You wouldn't believe it. Glutes. Because I bet his wife said, Bobby, you need a bigger ass.
Cheryl? Is Cheryl?
Yeah, so she probably wants to grab some ass. So yeah, Bobby wants, he's very impatient and he has a little bit of shoulder problem always, but he just doesn't want to slow down or some people they've been doing things since the same thing forever, and even though he's like eager to learn everywhere else so much, that surprised me that he couldn't be patient at working out. That was kind of like I was kind of like, that's weird. Like I would think that's the guy who would want to, be patient and listen and wanted to, do everything you say. But to be fair, like he looks great and he's in great shape and he's not very athletic from just his movement patterns and everything. He's not a natural athlete at all. Like I bet he would never done great at any sports at like football or anything. He just doesn't move that smoothly, But yeah, I always supported him in all his endeavors, health wise, Maha wise, and everything. The only thing I disagree with him on is Israel. But I mean, I don't
So
know why he's so pro Israel. I really don't know because his dad wasn't and his uncle wasn't, and I have like, sure, like you can say yeah, everyone's bought nowadays by APAC, but he seemed to be never be afraid to go against anyone. He went against half his own family. Like it's so brave what he did. People, I don't think people understand. Like if you're in his situation and you're a Kennedy and you go so hard against the establishment, which is half of your family, and you risk being killed and all kinds of things. You go against so much big money that I'm surprised that he stops at Israel and is such a advocate of everything they do. And just like I don't understand it. And people shouldn't confuse Israel with Jews, that's all what they always do. I just told you that I hate what my German government does.
Right,
I'm
right.
not a germaphobe, like an anti-German. I
Yeah.
am German, but I can still say that, dude, what my government does, I don't like. And I think half the Israelis also don't agree with what their government does.
Right, right.
So that I just want to make that clear because that's total nonsense. If everyone says that now, like, come on.
Well, I just want to clarify for you. People are going to draw an incorrect conclusion. You're not saying there's anything wrong with Jewish people because you're German. They're going to jump to this conclusion you don't
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
Jews. You're not saying that at all. You're saying
So
that you disagree with the Israeli government.
yeah,
You can like Jews and disagree with the Israeli government. You're a German that disagrees with the German government, and you know
yeah,
Jewish people who disagree with Israeli government. That's what you're
yeah.
saying, correct? Okay,
Look
yeah.
at look at, and there's also some prominent ones like Glenn Greenwald like comes to mind. He's also speaking out, and it's not that he hates everything that everyone does, but he's Jewish and he speaks out against it. And to my defense, like my family on my mother's side, they hit Jews during World War II.
Hmm.
So, and the Germans, like my country, the way I was raised, we're the most Jewish friendly people. And
Now,
and it's yes, yes, but it's it's almost, dude, you feel so bad when in Germany you interact with Jews. You feel like you have to be like this extra friendly, but then you also don't, because you don't want to offend them and make them think you hate them. So it's some people have that with black people because
yeah, I was
there
gonna
was
say
so
that's
much
how
talk about
that's
racism that they try to smile at everyone's black and be like, I'm not a racist. You know,
right. There's
it's
so
so
many white
wild.
people that are so many white people are extra extra nice to black people because they
Yeah.
feel like they feel bad about what their ancestors did to the black people's ancestors. Luckily,
And
my
also they're
ancestors weren't here yet, so I'm not responsible for that shit. So I'm nice to them because I like them in general, not because I have to be.
but you're also afraid to just come across racist or not, or just like a little bit unfair or anything because there's so much talk about this. I think if we would never talk about it, it would be way better
We
because
didn't
it's
talk
not
about it.
like
Nobody
it's
talked about it 30 years ago. No one talked about it. There was no racism really, not like there is today, 20, 30 years ago. Everybody got along just fine. It's like it's now this social media shit by the Democratic Party has created this fake racism that's pitting people against each other. And some people believe it's real, but I think the vast majority of people don't. Like recently we saw a huge amount of anti-Semitism because people were pro-Palestine, they were anti-Israel, but then they extrapolated that to anti-Jews when they really meant anti-Zionists. But they don't differentiate between Israelis, Zionists, and Jews. And so, as a result, there's a huge amount of anti-Semitism. And I didn't know
and
that
then
there was any anti-Semitism in the United States. I was shocked as hell to see that.
and the Democrats do the same with with immigrants. Now they're just like immigrants. And it's like there's no distinction between illegal immigrants that commit crazy crimes, and legal immigrants. It's just immigrants. It's
Well,
like
like,
no one said that.
well, like it's so you are first generation American, correct? As of 2019, right?
Yeah, so I'm like zero. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so technically you
I'm
are
an
an
immigrant.
immigrant.
Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
are you worried that ICE is coming for you? I'm pretty sure Trump doesn't have your number. He's not gunning for you. And I'm
He could
sure,
get my number actually. He could just
but
ask Bobby for it.
yeah, I
But
was gonna say,
you know,
Bob, you could call Bobby and be like, Bobby, save me. They're coming for me. ICE is coming for me. And he'll call the president and say, like, lay off my boy Leo. He's cool.
yeah, yeah. It's no, I'm not afraid. Yeah, come on. And then they always conflate these numbers. But you know what I think is like I think it almost turned it around. Meaning, I think when we stopped talking that much about racism because it wasn't that big of an issue anymore, there was
Hmm.
still actually a bigger issue in the 90s, I would think, but there wasn't that much talk. And it got better and better and better. And now it got even better. But now, because they just, if there's one case, they have to show it everywhere. So now the black people feel when they've been treated unfairly, or even if they haven't been treated unfairly, they think like maybe it was because it was racist, or so they see racism everywhere, where maybe in 90% of the cases it wasn't even that. Like they get denied for a job, they're like racist. They get said no to, racist. Maybe it was the white guy would have gotten the same no,
So
but
what's funny is,
nowadays it's in their mind that it's an option,
so I lived
so
in
they see it
Detroit, right?
everywhere.
And in Detroit, I don't see any of that. I don't ever hear black people claiming that there's racism behind anything. Everybody pretty much just gets along. If anything, we're the minority and the black people are the majority here. So it's
Mhm.
not really, I don't ever see racism. It's never directed at me. I never have to deal with it. I never see anyone else deal with it. I don't know anyone who talks about racism unless they're a very young college kid or a college professor. That aside from the ultra left that are in their little left bubble, they don't understand that all the rest of America is just trying to get by. They're just trying to make ends meet. They're trying to get along with their neighbors. If, like, I just don't see it. And maybe during the height of when the Palestinian protests were supposedly happening in Dearborn, I'm like, fuck this. I got in my car and I drove down to Dearborn. No, but there's no protests. There is no burning American flags. Everybody was nice to me. Like I have blue eyes. I had my hat off, so you could see I had, like I walked around, talked to everybody. Was super friendly. They were super friendly to me. I ate at 3 different restaurants to see if anyone would treat me like shit. It was the polar opposite. Like everybody was super nice. And so for people who don't know, Dearborn has the highest Middle Eastern population in the world outside of the Middle East, more than Paris, more than London with the Pakistani population. There is no place that has more Middle Eastern people than Dearborn, Michigan. And it was all over the news that people were saying death to Israel, death to Jews, holding up scimitars with turbans on and burning American flags, drove up and down, I went down every side street. I didn't see a single burning American flag. It's total horseshit. It was like how they blew everything out of proportion during COVID, where I drove to New York and I walked into hospitals and I videotaped the empty waiting rooms. And then you see on the news, they're showing like all these bodies being stacked up, like footage from The Walking Dead. And it turned out it was footage from Italy. It wasn't even footage from New York. There's just the news is full of shit. They're trying to create a problem.
You know why that in Italy actually happened? Because of the shutdowns. What's the English word for that? So the people that deal with dead people, and they put him into the coffins. What is it called?
A mortician.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to do anything. So
Ah,
someone had to get dead bodies, and people died, and they no one else would collect them. So the military got them, and then they feel, oh, the military's coming. That's the reason. It's crazy shit. That's like, okay, yeah. So it wasn't even that big of a thing, and they have a big, like, a lot of old people they
what's
had in there.
what's the German word for mortician?
Bestatter,
What is it?
Bestatter,
Okay, so if I ever do a German death metal band, that's gonna be the name of the German death metal band.
Bestatter.
Yeah, because
That's good.
one of the best brutal death metal bands out of Long Island, New York is Mortician. It's one of the very first brutal death metal
Hmm.
bands. Their first album, I think, was Hacked Up for Barbecue. So if you're ever interested in very low quality New York style brutal death metal, check out Mortician, which is counterpoint to Suffocation, which Suffocation is very high end brutal death metal from Long Island, New York.
That's crazy. I feel the same happened with misogyny. So I think there's
Yes,
way
yes,
more women that hate men than there are men
yes,
that hate women. There's almost
yes.
no men that hate women, but there's
No,
so many women that hate men.
we're.
Like
I think.
we are in the era of misandry, like crazy, and they're all like, "Oh, they hate us." No, you hate us. You hate
it's
us.
Honestly, dude, it's not even women. It's really unattractive women that can't get men are pissed that they can't get men, so they hate men rather than trying to be hot. They don't get their nails done, they don't get their hair done, they don't get their makeup done because they're feminists. So by being feminist, they're as unfeminine as possible, and they don't understand that men are attracted to femininity. So as you rejecting femininity, you now have made yourself as unattractive as possible so men don't want to deal with you. And then they're mad at men for what they did. And so they hold men accountable. And it's like men are frustrated with those women, and then there's also like the only fan girls that are on the whatever podcast that make all women look stupid. And it's like that's an extremely small percentage of ultra dumb Generation Z. And most
Oh
of the
yeah.
girls on the podcast, they'll have 8 girls on there. There's two outspoken stupid ones, two outspoken smart ones, and 4 chicks that just keep their mouth shut. They only show the clips of those two outspoken stupid ones, and they're like, look at how
It's,
dumb these OnlyFan girls are. I'm like, well, those OnlyFan girls are making $1 million a month, so they're not that stupid. They're making you're
mhm.
just jealous because they make more money than you. They're going to grow up to be full women that are actually smarter as they get older. They're going to realize they made some mistakes. They're still going to be fucking rich, and they're still going to be pretty hot. So it's like, don't burn all these bridges now while they're like 18 and making $1 million a month. You know, they'll change.
And we still don't hate them. We just think they're
No,
stupid.
we're frustrated. We're frustrated. We're like, stop acting like that. Start
I
acting like
feel
a
bad
person.
for them. I don't hate them. I feel bad for these women that are like hate men. That's like, of course, there are some bad men out there. There's a bunch of guys that maybe not have your best interest at heart and stuff, but they don't hate you. Like no one, like for like hatred. Hatred takes a lot out of you. That's a lot of energy. Like most people have better things to do. And
They
oh,
basically,
one more thing on the women.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, when they say
I feel like
Kamala
we have to
Harris.
call your wife over to have her on the podcast just to balance this out. Otherwise, it's just they say they
Oh,
don't
she
hate
agrees with me.
women, but oh, I know they do. They, of course, they do. But all the married chicks voted for Trump. It was only the single chicks that voted for Kamala.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
um, so what I wanted to say is like when when the Democrats were asked in a panel, like, and they all agreed that misogyny and anti
Racism.
like racism was a
Yeah.
reason for Kamala to lose. I'm like, bro, if she'd been white and a man, she had had 10% less. She got more votes because
The
she was a
only
woman.
vote she
She got
got,
more votes because she
the
was black.
only vote she got because she was a person of color and because she was a woman.
And
Nobody
exactly,
voted for her based on her intelligence. Not a single
dude,
person.
if Trump would have been a black man and Kamala would have been a black man, the blacks would have all voted for Trump, all of them.
Yeah.
Like, come on, give me a break. That's such a bullshit. As a white guy to be voted into office, if you're going against anything else, you don't have the upper hand. You don't have the upper hand.
No.
There's so many people that vote on virtue signaling that's not even funny.
So I forgot what I was going to say, but it had something to do with the misogyny versus misandry thing. I guess it doesn't matter because the reason why they're so pissed at men, they all compete over that one dude. There'll be like 100 dudes. They all compete for that one dude who's 6'2" and makes 300 grand a year and cheats on every girl. And they all
Yeah,
compete for that dude, and they all bang this dude, and then they get cheated on by the same dude, and they're like, "Oh, men cheat." It's like, no, most men are playing Warhammer with other men in their basement and haven't seen a girl in 10 years. 50% of dudes have no contact with chicks at all. If you were to pick one of those dudes that has no contact with chicks, he would treat you great. He'd buy you flowers. He'd pay for everything. He'd call you princess. He'd rub your feet. He would he would cook for you. He'd do whatever the fuck you want. But you want to compete for that one piece of shit who treats every girl like garbage and then be mad at men about it. When there's the vast majority of men are fucking fantastic people and you wouldn't give it the time of day to. That's why it's so
yeah.
frustrating.
Happiness is all in here. they have to deal with themselves, you know, and they always look for it outside somewhere, and they try to find it, and it's like you got to find it in yourself. You got to see what makes you happy, and you got to go for it. And you know what I just thought about? This song. I'm looking for a man in finance, trust
That was
funds. It's
specifically what I was
Blue
addressing.
Eye.
That's specifically what I was. But she did that to make fun of those girls. People took her literally. She was making fun of women that have unrealistic expectations that construct the perfect man, and then they feel entitled to this perfect man, and they don't realize statistically that men doesn't exist. 1 out of 6 dudes makes 100 grand a year. 1 out of 7 dudes is over 6 feet tall. So right there, it's 1 out of 42 dudes makes over 100 grand and is 6 feet tall. That's 2.5% of the population. They don't understand that 1 in 42 men meets their minimum expectations for a man.
Here, I'm going to send you something. Can you share the screen?
I think so. It depends where you send it to me. Are you going to send it to me on Instagram? I can do that. I can't do it on this app. This app will not let me share screens. I have a different one that I can share
Okay.
screens, but it's lower resolution.
Well,
Is it
there's this.
the cat litter thing?
No, there's no. I wanted to send you the female delusion calculator.
The what?
So the female delusion calculator.
Right,
It's I
the
got
cat
stand
litter one.
I got standardsbro.com. So
Yeah,
you go for like age, and then race, and then exclude married, and then height, and then income, and you're like, damn. Like I'll put in my stats. Let me see. Let me see if what comes out, like how, let's say 24 to 33. That doesn't even say I have a six pack. Jesus Christ, if that would
right.
put
That
the
one's
six pack
supposed to
in.
be it's a fat multiplier of 10. Like you're 10 times less likely to find a dude with a six pack.
Oh, I'm
Non-obese
already
is 1 in a million.
1.6%. I'm
Well,
1.6% chance.
I'm gonna have you. I'm gonna text you my stats, and you put them in. I don't want to say them out loud.
Okay.
It's like, so it's what?
So
It's height.
it's age and race and income. Now you have to tell me your income.
It's not even height. Okay, that's yeah. It was income I
It's
wanted
also
to keep
height.
a secret. Okay, I wanted to keep that a secret. The height I don't care about. I'm 5'4".
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
short as fuck.
Yeah, I'm not gonna publicly say it.
Yeah, but height and then race is white. You know that. And what else is
Yeah.
there? Is there like any type of physical, like non-obese or not a single?
Oh yeah, I didn't even put that in with mine. Exclude obese. So I'm excluding obese, and I exclude marriage. Oh my God, now it's gonna get hard.
But you are married. Girls like
I am
married
married.
guys
Yeah.
more. Girls like married guys more. They see a wedding ring, they know that your dick works and your wallet's full.
Okay. Point.
And that's being 5'4". Change it to 6 foot tall. Let's see, because they're so shallow, it hides everything to them.
But I also said age. I said 40 to 46. I
Okay.
did it like a little, you know. With me, I did 30. What did I do? 24 to 33 or so. I'm 32.
Right.
But because like you need somewhat of a range, right?
Yeah,
But
change my height to 6 foot. Let's see how much rarer I would
oh
be.
my God, that's like not even like another zero point
It's,
0.015%.
okay. So it's 10 times more desirable to be a 6 foot tall than 5'4". So like that's
Yeah,
my yeah, whatever. But still, I'm still 0.1%. That means
that's
99.9 dudes wouldn't stack up. That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
No, I when I'm not fat, I'm 1%.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, for sure.
Because I put. Oh no, they can just be any marital status. They can't put married in. But yeah, if I'm not married, I'll be like very rare probably.
Right, right. Yeah, of course. Because the more desirable you are, the more likely you'd be married. That's why it's so fucking ridiculous that they all have the same taste, but then they want the dude to not be married. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. Like, obviously, if he's that good, he'd already be married.
Yeah, and they want someone who doesn't cheat. The
Well,
guys who won't cheat.
I don't think they
No,
really
but they'll
care.
probably no, but if no, if they put in their standards, you know,
Man,
women
they're gonna
don't
put
always want what they say they want,
no, no,
but
no.
they will say they want that.
So here's the thing. If you were faithful, they'd feel guilty cheating on you. But if you were a cheater, they feel great cheating on you, like you deserve it. So
Yeah.
that's why they like banging a married dude and having using his money, is because then someone else has to comfort him and take care of him. She just gets to take his money. And then she can do that with 6 or 7 dudes. And she can juggle all these married dudes and never commit to any of them and take all the money. And then once they're ready to settle down, they find someone weak that they can control and they marry that guy.
If people think that way, that's sad. But yeah, I mean, I imagine that.
You mean if everyone was as cynical as me, then the world would be a dark place, right? It's like, how old are you?
I know, dude. The world's like the last 5 years, like showed me how bad the world really is. It's scary, man. It's really scary.
I wish my dream is to meet a special lady that'll treat me as good as I treat her, and that we would be monogamous and faithful and forever until the day we die. And in fact, every girl has told me you are the only person that doesn't check other people out. You're the only person so loyal you don't even look at other people. Every single other person on the planet, including them, still checks out other people. They like to look. And so I would be looking for that one girl who doesn't even look at other people. But I've yet to find that person.
But I think that's harder for men when you go to the gym because you like their asses in your face all the time. It's like almost impossible never to look on an ass. When
Well,
when guys usually like they don't expose themselves that much in the gym, let's say, or something. You know what I mean?
that's
So
not what I mean by
women.
looking. What I mean by looking is looking with intent, with fantasizing.
Ah, okay, okay,
Like if I have a
yeah,
girlfriend, I see some girl's ass that's really nice. I'm like, oh shit, and I'll look away. You know what I mean?
okay, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. No, but okay, that's okay. Good that you defined looking because
Right.
like it's in a gym, it's almost impossible.
Right. The
But yeah,
gyms are basically clubs with actually attractive people. It's not just dark
yeah,
lighting and alcohol and makeup. These are really good looking girls.
and you can actually really see them in the
Right.
club. You're like, fuck, and it gets a little lighter. She doesn't look that good.
Yeah. Yeah, you meet them in the club, then you take them to dinner afterward at the diner, and you're in fluorescent lights, and you're like, holy shit.
I remember the first time it happened to me, dude. I was like maybe I don't know how old I was. There was a girl on a party, and I saw her after in the metro, and like she had, or a day later, I don't even remember, but she had no makeup on. I'm like, that's fucking her. I'm like, my God, it's like a
Dude,
different person. Like
it's
she had
so brutal.
like,
It's so brutal. It's so funny when girls are like I don't wear makeup. I'm naturally beautiful. It's like, yeah, you are. And you're thinking, but you'd be so much hotter if you wore makeup because there's girls that look like a 9 and they take off their makeup and they're like a 3 or a 4. And then there's girls that are like a 7, but then if they had professional makeup done, they're like the most beautiful girl you've ever seen. Like, oh my shit, you're like a 10 when you have your makeup done right. It's
I'm
like,
really lucky. I think my wife looks better without makeup, really
yeah, you
without
are
makeup.
lucky. You are lucky, and she's right there listening.
No, no, she's not. She's not. She went out. But I swear, like when she has a bikini show or so, and they put all
Mhm.
that makeup on, okay. That's way too much.
That's too much, but it's
But
stage makeup. It's
but
supposed to be too much.
it looks horrible. And when she puts a little bit of makeup on, it can look good. But without makeup, she looks awesome. Like some people just have enough, lashes, and they have like shiny eyes, and they have good skin, like and a good shaped face. Like, I mean, us men, some of us look good too, and we don't have makeup ever. It's like
Right.
there must be some women, and it's the same, right? It can't be just men that look good naturally.
I
But yeah,
almost, I've almost had girls that were, I've had a couple girlfriends that were cosmetologists. I've almost had them teach me how to put makeup on them so that when I have future girlfriends, I'd be able to like, hold on, let me fix this. And I go and I'd fix their makeup for them. And it's not like a controlling thing, like you have to wear the makeup the way I want you to. It's
Yeah,
just like they'd be like, I don't really know how to put on makeup. And like, hold on, let me, and I'll just do it. And they're like, if they liked it, they'd be like, holy shit, this looks great. And you can barely tell I have makeup on. It's like that's the point. I'm
yeah.
supposed to make you look better. I'm not supposed to paint you up like a clown.
That's what some girls don't get, but they're so insecure that they don't understand that we can see if you wear a shit ton. Even if that looks good, it's like we're skeptical.
Right,
So
right.
just make it look natural. Put as much on as you want, as long as it kind of looks natural. If you over, like, maybe someone likes it, but it's probably not going to be the best quality man, let's say. Maybe in some instances, because everyone's different, but you know, yeah, you have to if you find out as a woman what usually like what they consider quality men actually look for, I think some would be surprised.
I mean, I think it comes down to like what I look like. What I like is like red lips, so like red lipstick or some shade of red that's right for you in your outfit, mascara, eyeliner, relatively dark, and then some eyeshadow that fits the outfit and the lips. And that's it. You don't need a whole bunch of other shit. Like that's, and I mean, like people are like, well, that's pretty much everything. It's like it is and it isn't. Like if you look at like the Robert Palmer video, there's from like the 90s, they had these four women that had like perfect makeup on. And it was
Hmm.
like, that's like a very, you wouldn't know that they had makeup on, but they do have makeup on. Look at a picture of Gal Gadot, then look at a picture of Gal Gadot without makeup on. And you'll be like, holy shit, that's the same woman? It's
Hmm.
because you didn't notice she had makeup on until
Hmm.
you saw a picture of her without makeup on. Then go back and
Yeah.
look at her picture, and she's going to have darker eye. She's going to have the area around her eyes darker, and her lips are redder. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all you got to do. And I
Yeah.
think girls just way overdo it, or they go light. They go with light eyeshadow and light lips rather than dark. And depending on their complexion and their hair, that's different. But that's not the look I like. And I think that's what I've noticed is anything I like, other guys like too. That I have very vanilla taste. I had one girl tell me that everything I like is what other guys are going to like. I'm pickier. I've got stricter standards. So it's almost like if I like it, every dude's going to like
So you have a lot of competition from your best friends that are single.
it. I don't really, yeah, I don't think I have any. I think all my friends are married.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, I don't think I have any single friends.
Have you ever been close to being married or?
I was married. I was married
Oh,
from 2004 to 2010. Yeah.
but no kids?
No kids. I've had five stepkids with different girlfriends over the years. And
Ooh.
the reason why I call them stepkids is because I supported the household and they called me
Hmm.
dad. You know, like their
Whoa.
baby daddies didn't pay child support or nothing. I basically supported them. Or I was the one who like taught them how to read, taught them how to tie their shoelaces, change diapers, that kind of stuff.
Are you in contact with some of them still?
No, that's one of the more painful parts of
Yeah.
life is
So
that
yeah.
when you share kids with a woman, but you don't share DNA with the kids, then when the woman cheats or you have to get rid of her for being a bad girl, then she takes her kids and you don't have access to them. You have no legal rights to kids
No, no, of
unless you
course.
adopt them.
I mean, unless you kind of get out of one of these relationships and you're both cool with each other, then it might, be like that. I think my aunt, yeah, and they didn't even go apart first that well when they separated. With my aunt with her boyfriend back then, it's funny because I'm still in contact with him because I was like till I was like 10 or so, and
Hmm.
we always were like best friends with my uncle that wasn't my uncle, but he was like pretty immediately when my cousin was born, like not long after, like 2 years after or something. The dad left pretty fast, and so I that was kind of my uncle, and I always stayed in contact with him. I always loved him, and I'm still in contact with him to this day. And he's not family or anything. When I was growing up, like we were like when I was 25 or so, we were bike riding and working out together and stuff. So that's kind of interesting. So I have one of these relationships, but for me, maybe because I'm more distant, but not a
Well,
family, but still.
there's a couple of times. Once in a while, I think about what would be how cool it'd be if they got a hold of me when they turned 18 or something, or
Mm,
if they actually like had their own cell phone and they had Instagram and they reached out. That'd be
mm,
cool to like re-establish some type of relationship with the kids because I think the oldest one of them's 15 now.
yeah,
But I'm not the person that's going to
yeah,
initiate because in
has
our
to come from
current
them.
culture, they're gonna be like they're gonna pretend like I'm trying to kidnap the kid because it's a
Yeah,
minor.
yeah,
So I just want to stay the fuck away from it until
yeah,
they're 18. Then you can't kidnap them because they're 18, and then I can
yeah,
actually talk to them.
yeah. That would be so cool if I wish that for you, that they would reach out to you. Like, because I feel like a lot of people, for like nowadays especially, they forget they're not grateful. They don't see who helped them. I just talked, who did I talk to? With Jay Cutler actually, about being self-made, and that a lot of people don't realize how much help they have in some kind of way, how
Mhm.
much people they supported them throughout the journey. If it's a big client of yours, just who keeps you over water or something, even though you do the job, like they still paying your bills in a way, or like so many little things, so many people that maybe gave you a connection or just helped you a bit, and people don't appreciate that much. I was thinking about Ed Connors, and he helped so many people, and he said, yeah, there's some that are grateful and they express it, like Jay or so, but there's also many that you never hear from them again, and most of the people they're not like that, and I think that's because in our society we got so antisocial and we exclude each other so much from everything. But we should realize that connections and human connections is everything in life. Because if we're alone on an island, no one wants to keep living. So people should embrace that more and look for that more and get out and not just stay at home and be by themselves. And
It's it's
yeah,
funny you say that. It's like I always say that depression is when you live in the past, and anxiety is when you live in the future. And I
yeah,
feel like when people are alone, they basically reflect on their memories of the people that they miss. And that, hopefully they don't drink, but if you drink or do some type of opiate on top of reflecting on all the people you loved and lost over your life, that's how suicides happen. Whereas anxiety is like if you have the pressure of supporting people, you're always worried that you won't be able to earn enough money to keep them afloat. You know what I'm saying? Like you won't be
yeah,
able
yeah,
to provide for your kids or you won't be able to provide for your wife. And so they never are able to calm down. And so they work so much, they're stressed out and unpleasant to be around and distant. And then that drives the wife and the kids away. So they're so worried they're going to lose their wife and kid. They lose them, kind of like Anakin with Padme in Revenge of the Sith. He turned to the dark side just to keep her safe when the person who was going to kill her was himself because he turned to the dark side. That had he not been full of fear, he wouldn't have been full of hate and he wouldn't have lashed out with hate and killed her and lost her and the kids. So I always think
yeah.
that that's anxiety is fear of the future and depression is longing for the past.
Oh, absolutely. And the craziest thing is, I mean, 85% of the things we fear never come to fruition.
Right.
So it's like it's fear over nothing. So you
You're
always have to like, I don't know, like just think about it. Like how many things, let's say if you're not just born, you probably were afraid about something happening that already showed not to have happened. So
mhm.
always think back on that. Oh, how many times was I afraid about something and it didn't happen? And then maybe that can calm you down. It's like probability is high. Everything I'm afraid about now is also not going to happen. And also, I have some say in it, like at least to a degree, most of the times.
I would
So,
say that
like, imagine, like, also be aware that you can influence things. Like, you're not just because that's also what society or media puts out on everyone nowadays is that like, oh, you're powerless, it's all like you're just a victim, it's all happening to you, like you can't do anything about it. You need support. You're not capable by yourself. It's like, come on, like you can still do something. We're not like, it's not like we're in a prison or something. Sure, people have different circumstances and some have it way harder than others. I'm not saying that, but the way you react is always on you, and you always have the last word in how you react to
Right.
anything.
And it's they basically teach people not to be accountable and to play the victim for positive affirmations. It's yeah.
And it
I,
works
I
a lot of
just
times, so
I
it
don't
works.
agree with that
They
at
get
all. I
rewarded.
think people need to be accountable for every single thing that happens to them, even if it's not your fault. You should look as what percentage of what happened to me was my fault. Oh, you got carjacked? Why were you there? Why was your car unlocked? Why did you stop at that stop sign? The police even say not to stop at the stop sign in this neighborhood. It's like,
Mhm.
whatever the fuck happened, you're at least partially to blame. Why were you there? Why did you talk to that person? Why did you help that person? You didn't know that that person was going to backstab you. Why didn't you know that person was going to backstab you? And people, I always look at the opposite. Everyone's trying to blame everyone around them for what happens to them. I'm always trying to think, how can I blame myself for everything that happens?
Well, you don't have to go to that extreme all the time, but it's
Right.
definitely important in some most of the cases, let's say. But there's some people that then end up blaming themselves for something they are really like marginally to blame for.
Right.
There's also the opposite.
But that's what your friends are for. Your friends will
Yeah,
tell you, no, motherfucker, you're like
exactly.
1% to blame. It's 99% her, 1% you. Or,
Yeah.
no, it's not, rather than what I always have to do. When girls complain to me about stuff, I was like, he's right. They're like, what? I was like, because you're the one guy who doesn't take her side. And it's like, I think he's right. I think that you really were inappropriate, and I don't think he handled it well, but I think he should have called you out on your bullshit. And they're like, that's why I ask you, is you're the one person that'll tell me the truth, whether I want to hear it or not. I was like, that's why no one likes me, is because I'm honest to a
Yeah.
fault. Like everyone comes to me for advice, but no one likes you after you give them advice.
Why don't you support me? You're my friend. You have to support me.
I'm supporting you with the truth. I'm not propping you up with bullshit.
That's also so wild. Where did I hear that? That there's someone, oh, that was, I think, a Jubilee or something, whereas like they would support their friends in whatever they do and whatever they decide. I'm like, if you're a friend, you tell them the freaking truth, because if you're a true friend, you go the hard way, and you sometimes have to fight because sometimes it's worth fighting to tell people they're wrong. It's like you're not a friend just by saying yes, 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 yes. But some people are like, oh no, that's how I learn it. Like, if I'm a friend, I'm always supportive. What?
No.
It was nuts. But some people think that way.
I almost go to the person who never takes my side on anything and always finds fault with me. Like
Mm.
ex-girlfriends are great because ex-girlfriends hate you. So if you go to an ex-girlfriend, she will tell you how it's your fault because she's always mad at you about some shit that happened 10 years ago. So an ex-girlfriend will always find a way that it can be your fault. So if you think you're completely innocent, go to an ex-girlfriend. They will show you how it is your fault.
I'm such an angel, bro. I can talk to my ex-girlfriends. It's not gonna happen. They all like me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I think most of them like me too, but they still judge me in a harsher light than anyone else.
maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That they
I'm,
know
I'm
you
not
better than
typical.
you know yourself.
Yeah, I'm not the typical. I'm not. I don't know.
But you have a wife, so I wouldn't talk to any of your
Yeah,
ex-girlfriends.
no, no. But I'm not a
That's
drama
against the
guy.
rules.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not a drama guy. Whenever I separated with the girl, it was that anyone was cheating or we were like fighting like crazy. It was just like the air was out. Like it's not like it's like poof. It's like I don't think that's it. Kind of like it's not like anyone's an asshole or so. I was always pretty good. Maybe I'm just lucky, but I never chose like a shitty person or a shitty woman like that would like you know.
That's an interesting take. Is I got better about that when I got older. When I was younger, I would hang on until they did something so egregious I could not forgive it. And so they've got them to be like where they're doing shit to push you away. Whereas
Mm,
I think by the time I was older, I was just like, yeah, this ain't working. I'm done. And then they want you to stay, and then you just don't stay. So they try for a year or two to get you to come back, and you just don't come back. Then they kind of just resolve themselves to being your friend.
yeah. I think a lot of women, they also the other way around, they stay with some men they shouldn't because they have been treated so bad that they sometimes feel they have no chance of ever getting anyone decent, or they're afraid to be alone and stuff. It's
So that's a
it's really
negging
bad, man.
manipulation tactic. So that
Yeah,
tactic is something that I've had women use on me, but I know men use it on women more. Whereas they feed you with affirmations, then they withdraw positive affirmations so that your self-esteem now takes a blow. Your self-esteem was propped up by them, and then they pull away the affirmations, so you now have no self-esteem without their affirmations. So now they trickle out positive affirmations super rarely, so you're addicted to their affirmations. So you'll
yeah,
never, and no one else's affirmations will ever fill that gap. They need that specific person's affirmations. So I know that technique because girls have used it on me before, but I will never use it on someone else. And I despise when men use manipulation to make up for a lack of real value. That you're
yeah,
not charming or you have nothing to offer, but you use these dark psychology tricks to manipulate women. That pisses me the fuck off. I
yeah.
hate it when they do that because then they make it hard for nice guys too.
Exactly, because they think everyone's an ass. But
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Like, I never anyone. I don't feel anyone ever did that to me at all. But obviously, like 10 years ago or so, I would have been way more easy to, fall into that and not be able to be like, "Fuck you, I'm a cool dude." Like, whatever, I'm good. But now I'm like, I like myself, and like I'm not old, but I think I'm grown up and matured enough that I'm like, I'm a good guy. I'm a good person. I have good qualities. I have good values. Like that's not many. I think everyone should be pretty lucky. I'm a good person if they have me. So if you reject me, okay, good luck.
It's funny because I always like the hidden value thing, right? So like there's external qualities and internal qualities. So if you truly believe that the person on the inside is better than the person on the outside, and you're only being rejected by the like if you go up to a girl and you try to get her number and she rejects you, she's rejecting you based off your external qualities. She doesn't know your internal qualities.
Yeah.
So if you really like yourself, you're gonna think, I feel bad for her because she doesn't know what she's missing. Whereas if you don't really like yourself, you're going to think, man, she doesn't like me. I must be no good.
Hmm.
And I think you can't fake that, but eventually you'll get to the point where if you live congruent with your values and you've had relationships in the past and you know you treat women well, and like, people in your life think you are a good guy and you treat them well, you're a good friend, you're a good dad, your dog loves you, your cat loves you, your girlfriends think you're a great boyfriend, your wife thinks you're a great husband, whatever reason it disintegrates the relationship, they don't that they still think you're a good person, you'd make a good man for someone else. If a woman rejects you and you have all that history, you're going to be like, man, that girl's really missing out. I'd really
Yeah.
make her happy. She's, I
You
wish
know
she
who you
never
are
tried to.
inside.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
if you're very young, you might not really know.
And that's where I was going. Is that it takes time,
If you have lived a little, it sounds like I'm old. I'm not old, but
right?
I'm old enough to say that. I know what I know about myself. I'm not lying to myself. I know my whole history inside out.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm good. I don't have anything where I'm like, dude, that was horrible. Like, you're a bad person. To be honest, like, nothing.
Well, I've done that stuff. I've done that many times where I've been like, that was fucking horrible. I can't believe I did that. Then you go confess to one of your friends, and they're like, that really isn't that bad. You did like that was not that bad. What you that they gaslit you, that
Yeah.
they're making you out to be the villain when it wasn't that bad. Then you go tell your ex-girlfriend about it and you're like, I did this horrible thing, and they're like, you're a fucking monster. How could you do that? And you're like, okay. So you've got the memento mori, you've got the positive and the negative. That in some people's mind, what you did was horrid. In some people's mind, what you did was not that bad. You're not a bad person. Both people, even your ex-girlfriend's like, you're not a bad guy, but what you did was wrong. And then your friends are like, you're not a bad guy, and what you did wasn't that bad. Then you're like, okay, the truth's somewhere in the middle. Don't do that shit again. No matter what, don't do that shit again.
Yeah. No,
But
I'm
what you were
like,
saying was true is
yeah.
as you get older, you become more confident in most situations. Most people will get more confident and have higher self-esteem the older they
And I'm not in self-denial that I've never done anything wrong or something, because it might
get.
sound that way, of course, but not in a moral way where this is like really immoral, you know? And I'm not talking about like, if you steal gum in a store, like I've never stolen gum in a store, but I might have taken three bananas instead of six when I had really less little money, right? And just weighed six or something. I did that like 5 years ago, something like that. Sometimes, I had very little money, and I'm like, sure, that was wrong, but but I don't feel like a bad person for having done that. So maybe you can also say like, you're such a bad person that your morals are so crooked, but that's really like the worst thing I can think about. And I think that's pretty cool, you know.
Like what I mean is like one thing I really regret was in 14, I went with my girlfriend and her friends to a hockey game, and the woman who took our tickets was like 4'8" maybe. And I was keto dieting, right? So I felt like high as fuck. And I was just really like hyper that day because I'd never been off carbs for that long before. And I said something really, really rude. And I was basically like, I just turned around and I almost tripped over this woman because I didn't see her there. I was like, holy shit, you're shorter than me. And then I felt so bad I felt so bad. And my girlfriend was just so disappointed with me. She was just like, I can't believe you said that. I'm just so embarrassed to be with you right now. Like she was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed. That was so mean. And I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean to insult the woman. It just slipped out that I was shocked to see a human that was that short. Because usually I'm
Yeah.
looking up in the crowd at everyone. I'm never looking down. So I never look down to make sure I don't trip on someone like other
That's
people
such an
do.
honest that's such an honest slip. Like, I mean, if you did that because you wanted to tell the person, hey, you're short, you loser, then you're a fucking asshole. But
Right,
if it's really an unconscious slip, like, you should be forgiven. If that happens all the freaking time, you need help. But I
right.
mean, everyone who listens and would like judge you for that, you're an immoral person, like Jesus Christ, like you're holier than
I
Jesus.
felt so bad. But I remember it. I remember it 11 years later. Like I'll never
Yeah.
forgive myself for that. And I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I got a lot of shit that I'll never forgive myself for. But that's like an example of something that I'd say an 8 out of 10 on the bad scale.
Well, and I think if people have that, they should reach out to these people. That's the best thing you can do. And you can only try, not like the person like you once called short or whatever. But if there's like really bad shit you did, then just try to reach out. Maybe it will also take time. So it depends on what you did, the amount of time you might want to wait until you reach out. But you can try to make things right, and then get in tune with yourself again. Just don't hate yourself forever. Try to make things right. Unless
Right,
you kill the person, then you're fucked, bro. But
right.
most of the things you can kind of make right. But sometimes you're unlucky, and sometimes maybe people won't let you because they're
So,
very not that forgiving. That can happen.
so it's funny you brought that up about the killing somebody. So, as a thought experiment, would it be worse to
Technical
kill some? Would it be worse to kill someone by accident or on purpose? Which one?
on purpose, of course, on
Is it?
purpose.
Is it? Because think about it. If you killed someone by accident, that means they're dead for no fucking reason. if you killed someone on purpose, it's either because they're a witness or because they owed you money or they fucked your girl, that they did something to get
Well,
themselves killed. Whereas if you
okay,
killed
okay,
someone by accident, they didn't do shit. And what's worse is you intended on hurting someone and you succeeded. So you did what you wanted to do. Whereas you had no intention of hurting somebody and you killed somebody. That's really bad. It means you fucked up so bad someone died from it.
okay. My answer was premature. You're right. So obviously, it depends on why you killed that person. If
Uh,
that person's gonna murder your whole family the next day or whatever, like my God, like I get in legal trouble, but there might be reasons. There might even be legal reasons you're allowed to kill a person, right? So let's just claim
well,
for
I
this
didn't
that
say murder. I said kill. So like
yeah.
murder implies
So
an illegal killing, right?
so
But I didn't say
of
murder.
course, okay, there of course it's worse killing someone by accident than killing someone who was about to blow up a building the next day or something,
Hmm.
with innocent people. So obviously there's a distinction, but like I wasn't even thinking that far. I was like more like I was already having that evil premise in my head of because killing is evil that the intent has to be evil or immoral because most of the times it just is when people get killed. But obviously there's some exceptions where everyone would say, dude, yeah, it would have been totally fine if you killed whoever shot, JFK 1 second before he pulled the trigger or whatever.
We're about to
So
find out. We're about to find out who shot
I
JFK.
don't think
Trump
so. I don't
Trump
think
just released
so.
the documents.
I don't think we're gonna find out.
I think so. I think Trump, what do you call it, hooked up Bobby and he released all the information.
I don't think so.
It hasn't been
Really
released yet,
can't
but he
tell.
signed the.
I cannot tell you why, but I'll tell you offline. People have to do their research
Oh,
because this is gonna be censored. But do your research on JFK and RFK, and maybe you'll know why
well, you have
they
the
murdered.
inside track because you're friends with Bobby, so you know what really went down. Because I'm sure he figured it out by now.
I'm If I tell you what I think, you'll be like, did he figure it out, or like, is he afraid?
Yeah,
Is
actually, he's on the list. He's on the
you
list.
know?
He's on the Kennedy
So
list. So that's and he knows who's behind it because he knows who's threatening him. Gotcha. I gotcha. All right. So
so
what minute are we at? We're at 1 minute and 56 seconds. Yeah, maybe we'll edit that out about the whole Kennedy assassination and that Bobby knows because he's the one who's been threatened by
no,
the
I don't
killer.
know if he knows.
Okay. Well, you should probably wrap this up because we're going on 2 hours, and we
Man,
can just do this again sometime.
yeah, that
We
was
talked
fun.
very, very little bodybuilding. We talked about women and politics, and people are not going to like this, but I'm going to do it just in case because I'm sick of all they do. All YouTube does is if it's a steroid video, YouTube promotes it, and if it's not a steroid video, it won't promote it. So I have to flood my channel with non-steroid content so that so that it stops thinking it's a steroid channel. It's really annoying. Yeah, because there's way more important things to life than steroids. Steroids are not complicated. You use test and GH and maybe an extra drug, maybe, and Masteron's the safest option. That's it. There's nothing else to it.
Yeah, you can call the episode Mastron and Murder or something like that. Mastron
Master,
Morals and
master,
Murder.
master
No,
murder. Yeah,
Mastron Morals, Misogyny, and Murder
yeah. It's the four. I love it. Yeah, Masteron, morals, misogyny, and murder. That
with
sounds
Leo Mayrhofer.
perfect. Yes,
Hey,
with
got your ass.
dude, that's perfect. All right, buddy.
All
Thanks
right,
for
man.
coming on.
That was great.
How can they get a hold of you?
Austrian Bowers on Instagram. On YouTube, just put in my name, Leo Mayrhofer or Austrian Oak. Overcome Podcast, also on Instagram and on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, make sure to follow him on this podcast because it's a great podcast. There's very few subscribers, but there's amazing guests.
Yeah.
And he does a good job of clipping the hour into like 10 and 15-minute segments so you can get what you're really looking for. And it's fucking phenomenal content.
Yeah, I got
Thank you so much for
I
what you
got
do,
taken
buddy.
down once last year, so I lost everything and to rebuild.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That sucks. You should back that shit up. I have all my stuff backed up on Rumble and I have stuff backed up on Spotify. That way, when the next time, because they
exactly.
came for me in 2018,
That's what I do now.
and so I lost
Yeah, that
I
was
lost
learning.
like 5 years of content.
That was my
Yeah,
learning. Yeah.
yeah. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.